Hi there, everyone. It is currently the 13th of March, 2015. Meteorologist Robert Spetta here with you today. I do want to mention before I start up this update, if you do check out our Facebook page and website, of course, we have information on Tropical Storm Bavi we are continuing to watch, but also Cyclone Pam here on the 13th of March. This is making landfall in the southern hemisphere at the country of Vanuatu. Probably going to be one of the strongest storms to hit the country there in recorded history as far as storm tracking here in the southern Pacific. But for this video update, we are, of course, talking about Tropical Storm Bavi here in the northern hemisphere. And this storm system, it is continuing to intensify, but it is not by any means a severe tropical storm or a severe typhoon out here. This is actually a low-end tropical storm right now, according to the Japan Meteorological Agency. We have winds right around about 40, gusting up to 60 knots. So the gusts are approaching typhoon status. Pressure now down to 992 HPA. Notice, I'll get out of the way, you can see all the convection is basically just towards the west of the center of circulation. And here on the visible imagery, you can even see this much clearer. All this higher cloud top centered off here. And there's your center of circulation. And you basically have that dry air inflow wrapping around the southern periphery. This is what we expected. We expected most of the convection on the storm, once it developed, to be north of that center of circulation, along with the higher gradient-induced winds due to high pressure interaction with coming in from the north. So that's actually going to play in key. We talk about if this storm system passes over Guam or if it passes over Rota just north of Guam, because any areas just south of it, you're still going to see the high winds, but you're really going to miss out on the worst of the storm, and that can really be seen here already with the satellite imagery. Unless this intensifies rapidly, which we're not expecting, we do expect it to peak around 60 knots sustained, but unless that happens, I don't really see this bottom half really gaining an immense amount of convection compared to the northern periphery. But that's what we're looking at right now with the satellite picture. Let's take a look at some of the tracks, though, and actually talk about specifically where this is going. Actually, if you go to the Tropical Information Center on the website, you can see the difference between JMA and JTWC. And I'll go ahead and put this even up on your screen here, where you can really just kind of go through and click each one of these points and get a rough idea of what each agency is forecasting. So let's go ahead and basically starting right now, this is via the Joint Typhoon Warning Center, 89 gusting up to 102 kilometers per hour. Over here, this little sun, that's actually the forecast for Guam out here. And as this storm system does track overhead, JTWC does expect it to peak around 111 gusting to 139 kilometers per hour. Actually, even right after it, it starts to weaken the storm system out. JMA, let's compare it up here. They only have a 3-day forecast. That's why it's not going slower. It just only extends out that far. They have this peaking right around 93, gusting to 130 kilometers per hour. So as I mentioned, gust on Guam could be upwards of typhoon strength. And especially right here, you can see JMA's track and JTWC at this time. They do have it coming south of Guam. So that would put you in that convection and that tighter pressure gradient along the northern periphery with those gusts upwards of about 130 kilometers per hour. That's enough to really toss things around, people. I know it's not a typhoon, and sometimes people think, hey, this isn't a typhoon, I shouldn't really worry about it too much. Even these type of winds, I know if you're military in Guam, I know goes through the core conditions as well, 50 knots, that's the threshold for it. This is upwards of 60 knots or higher. So anything small or lightweight, lawn ornaments, you want to take that inside. I know Guam is an American colony. Americans love stuff out on their lawn, and that's coming from an American that's lived in many different places, and I can tell you that much. Let's take a look actually over here at Meteor, and you can get an idea of that wind flow I keep on talking about. And with these winds, now right here, those areas in red, that's basically indicating the higher winds as our storm system starts to approach. Date up here on the top, Friday and the Saturday. You may already notice actually some breezy conditions out here if you are across the Mariana Islands. That's because of that pressure gradient, the interaction with this high pressure towards the north. But they're really not going to pick up until Saturday night, and as we head through Sunday, once these really just start to pick up, that's when things could start blowing around by Sunday morning into the early afternoon hours. Note, let's take off the winds and just put on the precipitation, though. Rain's not going to start until Sunday, so if you're on Saturday and you're just seeing some windy conditions, and sometimes I've seen people say, hey, where's the typhoon? It's just a little breezy, right? Well, first off, it's not a typhoon. And second, the conditions will go downhill rather quickly on Sunday morning now. It's moving a little slower than we were expecting yesterday, but they're going to go down rather quickly once that pressure gradient really tightens up and that moisture starts to push in from the east out here. And then on Sunday, it's just going to push right overhead. Let's put those winds back on the screen. There's your storm system. There's the track. Now, remember, as I said, this is the ECMWF model. JTWC kind of runs it a little bit farther south of that, and JMA was showing it right in this area just south of that as well. Let's take off the track, and I do want to show you guys the long range. This is really going to extend throughout Sunday and into Monday. You remember last typhoon that came through here? I believe it was Halong, by the way. There was a lot of downed power lines and trees with that one. So if you're not where you want to be by Sunday morning, you may have to contend with that if you're out here. I suggest just hunkering down. It's a weekend. You don't have to head into work. There's no point in putting yourself in harm's way. As we look out into Tuesday and by Wednesday of next week, though, this kind of stays on a westerly path. That high pressure that I also mentioned is creating that tight pressure gradient is also keeping this down here towards the south. So a recurving scenario with this in place off here, highly unlikely at this point unless it slows down and another trough comes through and picks it up. But at least with the information we are seeing right now, I feel confident with saying that the Philippines will be impacted by a tropical system. Now, there's a bunch of caveats with that. Remember, I'm making this update on Friday. I think that we're going to be impacted here in Luzon or Visayas by more like Wednesday or Thursday of next week. So we're still talking about 6 days out. It's beyond the forecast range from JTWC and JMA at this time. The other big thing is exactly where in the Philippines in the intensity is still up for debate because, as I mentioned, this storm system, it is going to push over Guam and then it's going to head east, but it's really encountering a lot of vertical wind shear. And then as we see this head off here towards the Philippines, it all depends on the power of that high pressure, if it keeps it farther towards the south or if it lets it gives way. Actually, you just seen with the ECMWF model, the meteor, it kind of pulled it into Luzon, but there's been also guidance pulling it farther down here towards the south. That's why at this time I'm actually kind of leaving this big old cone of air on it. I mean, it's a week out. You're not going to find this in any agency because it's just so vague. But the key thing is, yes, I do think it's going to impact here, but it probably won't be a typhoon. Reasons. Wind shear. That's one. Look at this. 30, 40, 50, 60 knots of shear. If you remember back on the Meteorith app, let's actually go right back to it here. You can see on the screen a lot of these winds just kind of pull back here towards the east and the moisture really tailing along our storm. What that is indicating is that shear kind of pulling that moisture in with it. Yes, we do have a tight pressure gradient, and yes, this is still a potent storm at this point according to this particular model, but it is getting sheared off and it is weakening. All right, let's go back here to the shear analysis, and also I want to show you another thing that I'm looking at right now, the sea surface temperatures. Right now, just south of Guam, or just southeast of Guam, Bavi is sitting in a pool of warm water. It likes it. It's slowly intensifying out here. Once it moves there towards the west, it kind of gets in a little bit of a cooler area out here in the sea surface. And if it moves way off there, this area in the green, it doesn't like that at all. That'll weaken the storm system out as far as its tropical characteristics. So these are a few things we're looking at. Now, with all of that said, I do think it's going to weaken. But look at this right here. There's a little pocket of warm water. If it hits one of these pockets in the Philippine Sea and the shear laxes, we could see some intensification before landfall. We have seen that in the past. Even in storms this year, the models didn't pick up on it, and it happened right before landfall. The storm intensified and it came on shore. So right now, there's such a big difference in both ways. I think by the end of the weekend, once we start to see how far this goes north before it starts to stay on that westerly track, then we can kind of get a really good idea right now. And if you notice each one of the updates, we're getting a little more confident on the future as far as the impacts, first on Guam and then on the Philippines. And that's basically what we're looking at right now. in our 10-minute little update there. Don't forget to follow us at the website, on our Facebook, Western Pacific Weather, Twitter at Westpac Weather. I will not have another update until Monday probably, or Sunday night maybe if I have the energy. Actually, I'm doing a little outside work up here in the Japanese Alps, so do check out the Facebook page. I'll probably be posting some images from up there. Yeah, meteorologist Mike Adcock will be posting, not to this YouTube channel, but just check out the website or the Facebook page. You can check out his video updates throughout the coming weekend. All right, guys, stay safe out there, and as always, thanks for watching.